Hello, my name is Darren Thomas. I'm the Director of Educational Research Techniques. In this video, we're going to take a look at, or we're going to conclude our discussion on the options that are available in quizzes inside Moodle. So as you can see, I'm already logged into my course. In order to do this, we already have a quiz set up. We've been kind of playing with this quiz. And so since we're just looking at the options, we don't need to create a new quiz. We need to check out the settings. So to do that, we click first on Turn Editing On. And then as you can see here, we can click right here on Edit Settings. Now just for a brief review, at the top you have your name. You can put a description right here if you so desire. And we looked at these first four option features right here: timing, grade, layout, and question behavior. Timing is like when the quiz is available, for how long. Grading is, of course, the points, etc. The layout is how many questions per page. And the question behavior, we talked about certainty-based marking and all those other things like that, and how soon the student gets the feedback, etc. Those are the things we talked about in a prior video. So in this video, we're going to be looking at these four options: review options, appearance, extra restriction on attempts, and overall feedback. The last four, these are pretty much in every Moodle course, so we don't need our Moodle activities, so we don't have to look too closely at those. So why don't we go ahead and start with review option. Review option tells you what kind of information the student has access to after completing the quiz. So you can see here that you can say immediately after the attempt. These are the things after they attempt the quiz. This is the information they have access to. So the attempt, they'll know whether their answers were correct, their score, specific feedback, general feedback, what were the correct answers, and what was the overall feedback. If you check all those boxes, when the student completes the quiz, they will have access to all of that information. Another one is later while the quiz is still open. Again, the same features are there. In other words, while the quiz is still open, open means that students can still take the test, or take the quiz, they will have access to the same information again: their grade, specific feedback on each question, general feedback, whether they got the right answer or not, etc. And then also you have what information will they have after the quiz is closed. So when the quiz is no longer available for students to take, what information will they finally have access to? And again, you can see the same options available there. Now, how to set these options up depends on what your goals are. If your goal is for them to do self-study quiz and to kind of have feedback on how they're doing, you probably want to check all these boxes so the students can see what they got right or wrong. If you're using more of an official summative assessment where you don't want them to know their score until you're ready to submit it to them or inform them, you probably don't want to check any of these boxes because you don't want them to know how they're doing. If they're taking the test multiple times and every time is for a grade, you probably don't want them to know, for example, what the right answers are, because if they know what the right answers are, they're going to click those and they're not really going to do any learning if you're trying to let them take it multiple times. So how you decide how to use these options depends on the setting and what you are trying to do with the students. It's very important. There's no right or wrong way to do this. It can only be right or wrong depending on what you are trying to do. Now, in the next section here, we have appearance. And now this is useful if you have a large class, for example, and you want to show the student's picture. This is kind of useful, for example, if you're using Moodle in like a traditional teaching experience and you have like the test online. It'll post their picture on the computer screen while they're taking the exam. And of course, if the proctor does not know who the students are, they can see the picture online and then the student. This helps with identification purposes. And then it also shows you different things like the decimal place for the question grades and show blocks during quiz attempts. So you block them. The next one is extra restriction on attempts. This is where you can set up a password. So if you don't want students to go inside the quiz until you give them a certain password, you can set this up. Again, I couldn't tell you exactly when this is useful because, as you know, you can hide the activity on the home page in Moodle, but there may be a time where this is necessary, and again, it depends on the context. Also, you can require a specific network address, so the student can only take the quiz at a certain IP address. This is very valuable for security reasons. Again, for most of us, it's not very practical. You can delay the time between attempts if you so desire, and then also against later attempts. So maybe you want them to take a 30-minute break so you know they actually sit down and try to figure out what they did wrong before they jump back in, etc. Again, these are very, very highly specific options that people have requested through Moodle development. And then of course, browser security, you can have a full screen pop-up browser if you want for your students. That way that they cannot, like, say, go into Microsoft Word or go into Google or something to try to find the answers during the quiz. Again, this is useful for certain people in certain situations. And then the last option window or the option tab we're going to look at is overall feedback. Here, you can set up boundaries. Like, for example, if a student gets a score between right now 0 and 100%, this is the feedback they would get, nothing. But you can set it up to where, like, if they get between like 70 and 80, you say like good job. If they get between 90 and 100, you can say like oh, excellent. This is a way for the student to get some kind of an immediate feedback after they complete a quiz. Again, it kind of saves, setting it up can be a headache, but once it's set up, if you're dealing with a large number of students, this is an excellent way to provide some sort of feedback to students without having to personalize it. So it's very practical for large classes where you have to provide a lot of feedback to many different students. So these are all the options that are available to you. And again, for the average teacher, most of these are not going to be too important. You're probably not going to worry about appearance or extra restrictions or even overall feedback too much. I will admit that review options may be beneficial for you depending on the type of assessment you're doing though. So we hope that in this video you were able to understand and appreciate how we review the review options, appearance, as well as the restrictions, the password and the IP address limitations you can set up, as well as overall feedback. So we hope this video was useful for you. We thank you for listening and watching. Take care.